Okay, my friends out there, how you doing? Welcome aboard. You're truly rocking Dave, the real deal, North Fort Myers, Southwest Florida, and I hope everyone is having a great evening. Thank you for tuning in. And like the top of the title suggests, it is going to be. We're going to talk a little bit about the first position on the fretboard here. But first, I want to give a special shout out to a good friend of ours from the Joe Winch Project. He's a great guy, great guitarist. Check out his channel, the Joe Winch Project. Here's to you, Joe, with a cup of Joe. That's great. Okay, my friends. Like I said, I hope everyone is doing well here. I got a squeaky chair here, so that's what you're hearing. Got to put some oil on it. Okay, so what we're going to do is kind of talk about the first position area here and kind of get right to the point. And the reason why I want to do this is that a lot of times in lessons and tutorials, well, actually, method books, guitar lesson books, they start from one point to another, and it all starts to gradually connect, which makes sense. I showed you last week some exercises to get your fingers to get moving, and it really is essential to learn how to do that, because you have the academics part, the book learning part, which of music, which is always essential. It's a good idea to learn all that, but it's not really necessary to actually play music. And I know that could contradict a lot of people when, or a lot of the, could be very contradictory for some, or misleading to some and contradicting. But I've met a lot of people that they don't even know the names of the fretboard, and they know how to play music. They're just gifted naturally. They can make music. So, there's always those two sides right there. But if you can kind of get in the middle, have the best of both worlds, it's going to help you, okay? But the reason why when I teach, I right away want to get people to start playing, get their fingers used to pushing down the strings, because sooner or later you're going to have to. And that has always been the problem with people learning how to play. They don't know how to play. They get a little confused. If they go too much into the music theory aspect of it, they get all confused, and then they don't practice, they don't really play, and then they're always at the starting point in their playing progress. One of the biggest complaints is their fingers hurt. Well, the reason why your fingers are going to hurt is because you're not developing the calluses that's needed to play. For playing. What's happening, my friends? I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Let's see who we got here. It's very hard to read this. This type is so tiny, man. I just want to give a shout out really to everybody out there tuning in, because it's very hard. Especially one of our friends, John Dawson. And, yeah, John, you're a great guy, man. We really appreciate you. And Rory, our student on the bus, and Aiden. This is really for Aiden and people who are starting out. And all our friends in Ireland and France and all over. We really appreciate you guys. Don't because I can't see the title. The chat, it's very, very hard. I don't know why they're doing that, but I don't know. It's, Anyways, let me get back on track here. So, then you got the book learning, and they teach you all this, and a lot of times they're actually correct in their process of going through chapter by chapter in the building block process. Now, a lot of them will start, if you've ever looked at any method books, especially older Mel Bay books, they actually have the picture of a classical guitar or sometimes a jazz guitar, but they focus in this area right here where your tuners are. This happens to be a reverse headstock. That's why it looks like it's upside down. It's just the way this guitar was built. It's cosmetics. It's not really anything that's required. You got to go out and buy one of these. No, you don't. But so the method books, they'll start here, which is really important because for the most part, they want you to get used to tuning. So make sure you know where your tuners are, which direction to go high pitch or low pitch, and develop all that. And then they want to cover this area, which is what's known as your open strings. And then we get on to your frets. Well, actually, these are your fret wires, but your fret spacings, where you are actually going to be playing to make the note. You push down on that string, on that fret, you get that sound. If I take it down here, get that pitch. Now, what I usually do is I write out both in notation and tablature, but here, let me. I didn't have the sheet right here. Let me go grab this sheet, and I'll explain something to you, because this is for absolute beginners. Now, keep that in mind. So, I have a blank sheet right here. We're going to use this right here, this blank sheet. Now, if you notice, you might, if you have any music classes in school, you might see this. That's your actual notation. That's your treble clef. This will apply to the treble side of piano, violin, flute, any horn or any instrument that falls within the treble clef. That's what that is referring to. That's your pitch. Now, this down here is the representation of the guitar. Notice it's got a reverse headstock. Not because it's trying to mimic anything I have or any guitars with reverse headstock. What this is referring to, this bottom here is representing this. So this low string right here is really your thick string. That's really this top string. And let me, real quick, here's my theory about why this is. Because I've had people ask me, well, if it's your high E string, why is it down here? Isn't this the string that's high? Because it's like higher to the ceiling and this is lower to the floor. We're referring to pitch. And here's my theory behind this. It was always, and it's always been, we've always lived in what's called a right-hand world. And people who play cello or upright bass, double bass, your instrument is like this. You know, it's not sitting like that, but I mean, it's upright. And when you're bowing across, we have our low pitch to our high pitch. And if you take your guitar is kind of in the middle of a viola and a cello, if you think about it. And we don't play it like this, but we go like this because we're right-handed, meaning this is my left hand. I fret with my left hand. I pick the notes with my right hand. So if you go like this, what happens is your low pitch string is up here. Your high pitch string is down there. That's my theory behind this. Now, so in essence, when you have this, this is representing the low pitch. That's the high pitch. In music notation, that's your low pitch, and up there's your high pitch. So that's why you have that. And if you notice, you got, here you have 6 lines. Here you only have 5. This is, like I said, actual notation. So anything that goes on here, on your staff, could be read by a piano player, could be read by a violinist, a person who plays flute, a flutist, any instrument that falls within that range. If you notice, this has got actually 6 lines. It's representing the 6 strings on the guitar. So, before, I don't want anybody getting confused about that. Now, let's go ahead and plug this in. And let me show you something here. Now, I usually write this out for absolute beginning students who might go and they take lessons. And let's say they're not here down here in the Southwest Florida area, or they don't take lessons online, which we're getting ready. We do lessons online as well. But you know, we get with our connection. I guess someone, I guess there was a big major outage, disconnection with Verizon across the United States. They just had it on the news, but thank God we got a connection here. So you see, sometimes it gets a little bit, it gets a little bit tricky to do things online. So, but my point is, wherever you're going to take lessons, if you get to the point where now just we're going to focus on this area, it's good to know this right from the get-go, so when you go in, you get a little bit prepared. Now, when I play these strings open, that means I'm not going to fret them. The names, and now what I'm going to do is go across all 6 strings in this position, okay? From the open position to the 3rd fret position, okay? When I go across all 6 strings open, here are our notation. Here's the actual name of the note. That is E, that's our low E. That's our A. That's our G. That's our, no, wait a minute. E, A, D, G, B, and your high E. So, in the first up to the 3rd fret position, the actual notes, we're going to play 3 notes, only one string we're going to play 2 notes, okay? But 3 notes on each string from a low pitch or from open position to the 3rd fret, okay? This is the names of these notes. We have open E, F, 3rd fret's G. Then on your 5th string is open A, 2nd fret B, 3rd fret C. Then on your 4th string, which is your open D, 2nd fret is E, 3rd fret is F. Then we go to our 3rd string, open G, and then 2nd fret is A. Now we go to our 2nd string, open B, 1st fret is C, 3rd fret is D. Then our open E, open high E is E, 1st fret F, 3rd fret G. So you're going to have the same notes here, E, F, G, like you're going to have on your low E, E, F, G, because they're the same. They're going up in pitch. When you go up in pitch, you know, it changes the name. Now, if you notice what I'm doing here and how I write this out is I write it out, you know, I'll do it on the tablature, but on the bottom I'll give you your fingering. 0 is going to mean open. That's your open string. You're not going to use any finger. When you play your F, you're going to use your 1st finger to play on the 1st fret to play your F. When you play G on the 3rd fret, you just get so happen to use your 3rd finger. When you go to the open A, it's open. When you go to your note B, you're going to go to your 2nd fret and use your middle finger to play that. When you go to C, 3rd fret, you use your 3rd finger. And that same combination is also on your D string. It's open D. Your middle finger goes to the 2nd fret to play E. Your 3rd finger goes to the 3rd fret to play F. When you go to your 3rd string G, to open G, and our A is on the 2nd fret, so go ahead and put your 2nd finger or your middle finger on the 2nd fret to play A. When you go to your B string, it's open B, 1st finger to the 1st fret to play C, 3rd finger to the 3rd fret to play D. Then when you go to your high E, it's the same like the top low E. It's open, 1st finger, 1st fret, 3rd finger, 3rd fret to play G. So in essence, the pattern is going to look like this. Now, if you cannot separate your fingers, always remember this: when you're starting out, this is all brand new. Of course, your fingers are not used to doing anything like this, you know. So you got to build them up. You got to work them out. You might not be able to do that spread right there. See that? 1st finger, 1st fret, 3rd finger, 3rd fret, because before you've ever played guitar, when did you ever have to spread your fingers out and do like chord shit? You never, probably never. So, of course, it's going to be brand new to you. So, there's a little trick here. You play your open E. You put your first finger on the first fret to play F. Now, to get your third finger to play G, you can, in the beginning stages, release that and then take your third finger and kind of hover it over the third fret and do that. Now, this is a really good exercise to develop this. First of all, if you notice, I'm reaching way up there, so I'm not down here. If you can't reach up there, then do it down here. But if you really want to start to get this coordination developed, go ahead and start up here. Find a way to brace your thumb on the back of the neck so your wrist, it could do this, okay? And do this. Just play 3 notes: E, F, G, and then back to F, then back to E. You don't have to do it a whole lot of times in the very beginning. Just try to do it at least a couple times just to get something started. And it's like working out. Like, for instance, I went on. People call it a diet. Okay, I'm changing my eating patterns and going back to doing some workout, some exercise, and I'm only doing the exercise very little bit, very little, because I don't have a whole lot of time. But because of that, and I started doing this, I think, over the weekend. Within those first few days, I feel like $1,000,000. So I wonder what's gonna be like as I continue on this way of eating. I'm gonna start feeling better. And I'm 62 years old. I'm gonna feel better and better and better and better and so forth. Well, it's like also riding a bicycle. When you first had to ride a bike, maybe you needed training wheels, maybe you need your mom or dad to help guide you so you don't fall off. But once you get the momentum going, you're starting to build up coordination. Part of playing a musical instrument, no matter what it is your physical coordination, the techniques of physical coordination, and those are the stages that people can get very frustrated, and then they quit, and it's like, oh, this is not for me. I thought it was easy because they watch these people on social media doing it like it's easy. Well, when you've been playing all your life, of course it's easy. It's like, walking across the room. It's very easy. You've been doing that all your life, right? So you have to build up this coordination. And it just takes time, little by little, by little by little, So don't get frustrated. When you feel you're getting frustrated, take a little break, then come back to it. Set yourself on a little schedule. Even if it's only 10 minutes a day, that 10 minutes, believe me, could make a big difference. I have a practice routine that will be on our Guitar Lessons website that goes into detail on a practice routine. And I had one of my students, he was trying to learn a really fast sweep and arpeggio. He just couldn't get it. He'd go online, he'd get frustrated, hear this advice, that advice, this advice. I showed him a method that he never thought of. And it's very much equivalent to how people work out. The whole point is that to do something fast and accurate, you got to do it slow and accurate. You got to build up to it. And if you're not being inspired to, and you don't see progress, well, of course, you're gonna give things up. So, but again, it's a technique. It's a little a method I came up with, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that uses this method, but it's something that I came up with to when you have short days to devote to practicing. How do you get the most out of that short day? That short span. Part of it is your focus factor. If you got strong focus factor, you're going to accomplish a lot. I can tell you that right now. And you won't burn yourself out and hurt your muscles. So, again, this is one way of getting this accomplished, is simply by this. And you can do this on every string. And so forth. And before you know it, you'll be able to do. The same thing with like string bends and all of that, which on our lesson program we get into very heavily detailed into that, and you'd be amazed It's so common sense. I think it's so much common sense it gets overlooked and people forget about it. It's like when you walk. You don't. Are you taking? You start with your left foot or your right foot. It doesn't really matter when it comes to that. You know, you just naturally do it. That's what you want to get to a point where in your guitar process playing where it becomes more and more natural. And okay, and another thing is, if you could use the pick, I really do think this is very important to understand this. If you start with a downstroke, the next note is an upstroke. The next note is then a downstroke, then upstroke, downstroke, upstroke. Because once you get this to the point where you don't have to think about it, it becomes second nature. So when I'm shredding away, or anyone you see shredding away, especially with the alternate picking, it's because we developed our picking technique. And when I started playing, especially when I was in high school, when I got in high school, and as I become more, a teenager and everything, everybody was showing you how to play, down, 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 down. It will have a purpose, but when you're starting out, you're developing a bad habit right off the bat. And for 6 years, in my beginning stages of playing, I had a really bad picking habit, real bad, and I had to clean it up. And that's when I was able to discover these tremolo pickings. It's good to have a metronome, a click track. To every click, you're playing a note. You'll start to be able to find out where your problems are, and because you're playing on that click, you're trying to play as accurately on that click, and it really starts to develop. For the most part, it's the upstroke pick, because we'll always be down, 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 never working on the upstroke, and that becomes the problem. So I was able to get that developed, and it really changed everything. But I put a lot of work into it, because my more natural playing is on the classical style. I have no problem doing that. But developing the picking speed and all that takes time. But again, don't get frustrated. And I remember doing these jam sessions with my friends, and in the beginning process, as I was developing this, I was only able to do something like this because I couldn't get the accuracy. When I wanted the sensation of speed, I would just take one note, I would bend a note, and I would do that. But when I came to where I had to cross strings, I wanted to break a bad habit, is what I wanted to do. So I had to do a lot of discipline. And over the course of doing that, one day it just hit me where I was able to do this. And it just came out because I was constantly working on it. So that really is the secrets of getting good. Yeah. But take your time with this. Now I want to point something out. You might ask, well, why did you put your first finger on the first fret on your low E string to play F, your third finger to play G? You skipped a fret. And then when you went to the next string, the A, you did the open A, but then you went to the second fret, and then the fret. It's the way the notes are laid out. If you ever looked at a piano or a keyboard, notice you have all white keys, then you have groups of black keys. And if you notice, some of those black keys are in threes, and then some of them are groups of twos, and then threes, and then groups of twos. What happens is, I'm gonna play all the frets to the third fret, so you can understand this a little better. In music, notation and the way the notes are laid out. We have 7 notes and 5 variations of those 7 notes. Meaning, if I would take it from starting with the letter A, our musical vocabulary, here in the States is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 7 notes. Well, what are those other 5 notes, Mr. Dave? Okay. You have the sharps and flats. Those are your black keys on the piano. Now, I'm going to explain this. I might as well do this because this question gets brought up a lot. We have open E, and right next to it is F. So there is no sharp or flat between the E and F. Likewise, on the B string, the notes from B to C, there was called a semitone, or in this case with our guitar, a half step from each other. Open B, and then there's C. Then we skip a fret to play D. Likewise, we do open E, right there is F, then we skip a fret to play G. Here's what the notes are. And I'm going to go through all 6 strings up to the 3rd fret on the high E string. Here's the layout. Open E, F. This 2nd fret, this would be like a black key on the piano. That's known as F sharp or G flat. See, it's got 2 names. Now, I'm going to focus on that in a little bit. So we have open E, F, F sharp, G, open A sharp, B, C, open D, D sharp, E, F, open G, G sharp, A. If I want to go further on this, that would be A sharp, and that would be B. Now on the next string, open B, C, C sharp, D, open E, F, F sharp, and G. Now I'm going to go backwards. G, G flat, but Mr. Dave, I thought you said that's F sharp. It's got 2 names. And the easiest way to understand this, when you call it sharp, you're raising the pitch. When you call it a flat, you're lowering the pitch. So as I go up in pitch from E, F, F sharp, because I'm going up, G, now I'm going from G back down. I'm going to call it G, G flat, F, E, B flat, which is the same as A sharp, A flat, G, F, E, E flat, which is the same as D sharp, open D, C, B, B flat, open A, B flat is the same as A sharp, B flat, open A, G, G flat, F, and open E. I know this is where people get confused, and right away it's like, oh, this is too much for me to handle. You pick and choose what is the easiest for you to understand, and you take it from there. For me, because when I learned in grade school, it was in a group setting. We were learning how to play these songs, and actually a lot of them might have been original songs. There might have been original songs in the very beginning. But what we first did, we learned how to play rhythms. And we learned the names of the chords and things of that nature. And then, so it was very limited, because right away at that Christmas season, we did a little concert. So, I started playing in front of people right from the get-go. And I had fun with my friends because we were just kids. And me and my friends look at each other, and the parents and the friends and the neighbors are all there. And it was a whole bunch. It was like, it was packed. It was full. As full as an assembly hall could be. and they're having fun. So for us, we look at each other and we said, the parents, everybody was having fun. So when you're a kid, you look at life differently, and I think you look at life so pure. That is such a special time in life. If us as adults could see the world through the eyes of a child, then we could see the beauty that there is, and then we could decide what's right and what's wrong with instantly. But my point I'm trying to make here is that instantly it was fun, and that's how I learned. When I got in high school, my first year of high school, I did take a music class, and that's when they hit me with the theory and all that. And boy, but I did learn how to read notes. I did understand the music staff, and I didn't. To me, it was boring because we weren't playing. You know, it was all book work, and I got frustrated, and I passed my first year, but I didn't take it my second year. So I just jammed with my friends. So now, because I jammed with my friends, I focused more on the physical ability of playing. And then I go to the music store, Chicago Music Company, and I do jam sessions with my friends here. You know, you go to the music store, you plug in, you want to play the guitar, and there'd be their music teachers. And sometimes I made friends because one of my friends, his music teacher was there, so I'd learn a little bit from him too. So they give me little pointers in that, which was great. It was absolutely great. And then everything else was self-taught. How I developed the technique and everything, and my classical guitar playing, everything was self-taught there. But I remember buying sheet music and music books and teaching myself what is what. And it's a long progress. It really is. But because I had the ability to play, I was able to just go out there and gig. And it can be two different worlds. It really can. Now, if a person is thinking about going to a music college and really get involved in theory, if you have such a strong interest, 100% go for it. Just keep everything in mind. No matter whatever it is you're learning, you're going to run into stages where you get frustrated. I mean, even when I go over learning new material, it's like, oh man, I can't get this. I'll take a little break from it, come back to it. So you find ways to help get you over those hurdles. It's fighting the frustration. And another thing is the discipline. When you are practicing, let's say a half hour, and you find that your mind is wandering all over the place, well then maybe don't practice a half hour, maybe practice 15 minutes, because part of your learning process is going to be your focus factor. The mind controls the body, and if your mind is wandering, so is your ability, your fingers. They're going to fumble and stumble and bumble. So in the physical aspect of playing, try to make the notes as clean and as clear as possible. You do not have to push all this, a lot of pressure to make the note, ring out. If I don't push it hard enough, like my teacher said, it's not, as long as the note comes out solid. When the note's solid, that's the amount of pressure you need to push. And another thing is, when you're playing in these fret positions, if I play to this fret, if you notice it sounds the same, that's kind of the safety net with actual fret wires. You really can't make a mistake. And when you're playing up in this position, it gives you a little bit of coordination if you have to play a chord. Everybody's hands are shaped different. Everybody's different. But that's why you have that. But to get back to the development of everything, so you learn to practice and play, make the notes as solid as possible. Now, in the theory part of it, just take as much information as you could digest. Now, I'm going to share something with you. One of the things that has always bothered me, but not so much now, but when I was younger, definitely, is the number system. And what I mean by that, I'm gonna play a C major scale for you. It's the most common one. No sharps or flats. And if I play in the third fret position, it is gonna look like this. And I'm gonna give the names, okay? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. If you use the numeral system, this is what you got. Your root note or your tonic, also known, it's your main note. It's the first note of that scale. This is what you're going to have: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the octave is called 8. You're playing back to C. When you look at, let's say, tablature, and you're going to learn how to play a song, and it happens to say we're going to play a C5 chord. What does a C5 chord sound like? I'll play a little excerpt. So. Okay, a little bit of Holy Diver deal. But why is that called C5? Just right here. This is your root note. This is the 5th degree. That's why it's called C5. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why. It took me a while to digest. It's part of it is because I got so used to actually playing and having more fun playing than reading it. So, that's part on my behalf. But then when I got real curious, I started to analyze a little bit. So, if you're going to lean toward the theory part, take it in steps that's easy for you to handle. And then, let's say you want to be like right there in the middle. You want to know theory and what you want to know how to play. Well, then divide some of that time up with the theory, and then divide some of that time with the actual physical playing. And understand, the more things you put in to the pot there, it might take a little bit longer, meaning instead of you being able to nail it within a week, it might take you 2 weeks. But that's okay. There's no race. There's no rush. Everyone learns at their own pace. The main thing is, don't allow yourself to get frustrated and quit. Because this has happened so many times. So I've had students, adult students, that they would say to me, Dave, I started playing, and then, I just didn't get it, so I put it aside, and now here it is, 5 years later, I'm going to pick it up again. My wife buys me a guitar. She says, I know you like guitar, but I haven't really played in like 5 years, so I go ahead and pick it up. The fingers are stiff, but you do kind of remember what you did previously. You really do. You're just a little stiff. And then you get back into it, you take it to a point, then you quit again. It's always just back and forth. This is one reason, and I'm not saying don't quit your job or anything, or your business or whatever it is you want to do, even if it's just for your own pleasure. You're going to have times where you're not going to be able to play all day, okay? Or maybe you might have a day which you don't play. Maybe you and your wife, you're going to go out, or, if you're a girl, you and your husband, or whatever, you and your friends, you go out, you're going to have those days. But find some consistency. If you're not doing it every day of the week, well, make it, let's say, 3 days a week. You're going to pick the guitar up and devote a little bit of time to it. Something is better than nothing. Because once you have a lot of time in between, then things kind of go down. It's like with anything. It really is like with anything. You just need to be a little bit motivated and inspired to play. When you're feeling like, oh, you got so much on your mind, you didn't take care of certain things, and you're going to try to practice, my suggestions, take care of the important things first, so that when you pick the guitar up, you don't have all this on your mind, cluttering up your mind and then causing you to mind drift and wander, and you're not too, you're not too happy. You're not going to put your all into it. If you're going to do the all-day practice like I used to do when I was younger, I used to do like 8 to 10 hour day practice. And of course, there's a little break here and there, but there was no TV. I didn't for years. I forget what programs were on. I have friends that ask me, Dave, have you seen this movie? Dave, have you seen that movie? And I tell them no. They look at me like, huh, what? Well, I devoted so much of my life to the guitar to be good and to be able to play that it became a way of life. But because of that, I was able to go out and play. And for a while, my wife and I, we were living full time on the music, without being in a cover band or a tribute band. I mean, we did some of those, yeah, but our main road shows, no singing, very few covers. No one cared if I played. They hired me because they liked the way I sound. When I got to that point, those levels, that told me that everything that I was doing in the past really paid off. It really did pay off. The only thing is with music, but make sure you save your money. There's no insurance in music. You have to have insurance to go out and play. But like as you get older, health insurance, it's not like it's not like your jobs out there, corporations, and all that. So, but my point is that to get good at anything, you do have to stick with it and devote some time to it. And don't. Here's another thing. Here's another tip. Whatever you do, don't compare yourself to other people. Have your mentors and people that you look up to, but if you want to be like that person, listen to their story, what they did to get to those points. And try to follow that. If you see success in it, try to follow that. And what I mean by that is follow anything good. Don't go down the bad path. Stay away from it as much as possible, because that's what causes people to have really bad downfalls. Okay. I've had someone say, Dave, how do you play? I want to be just like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay. Well, what you don't want to do is, because he sobered up, you don't want to go down getting drunk and all that. So get that part out of the equation. But what Stevie Ray Vaughan did, to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan, what he did was, when he learned all those blues songs, he played it in his style. So, when you learn something, you play it in your style. You'll start to develop a style. And how that comes about is, as you're practicing, as you're playing, you will develop a certain, so what's called a certain signature sound. Meaning, when you bend a note, and then your tone with an amplifier or an effect pedal, you start to mess with it. It just comes over a course of time. But you'll start to notice, when you start to notice, when you're trying to learn covers and you're playing the exact same notes, but it doesn't exactly sound like that person. It sounds close, but it doesn't sound exactly, because you're not going to sound exactly like that person. Because that person's fingers, Stevie Ray Vaughan's fingers was on Stevie Ray Vaughan's hands. Your fingers are on your hands. Carlos Santana's fingers are in his hands, not mine. Al Di Meola's fingers are in his hands, not mine. But I could learn from those ideas and develop something similar, because I like that, but still start to sound like me. And part of it is the note choices you pick. So if you're learning a cover song, let's say this, because I wrote this down before when my students ate it. I'm going to play just the two center strings. Your D string and your G string. Not going to play these, just these two. I wrote that down for my student Aiden. But let's say I'm going to play something what's called C minor. I'll start to experiment with the notes that's around the chord, and I'll try to play notes that sound good to me. that I like, and then of course I'm able to develop and play with vibratos, slides, and let the notes sustain out, things of that nature. They call it your phrasing, and I have a part that just dedicates to the phrasing aspect, so that if you were to play that back and try to play everything like that I'm playing there, you might get close to how I'm sounding, but you might not sound exact. Or you might say, Dave, I kind of like the notes you're doing, but I want to do it like this instead of like this. That's okay. Experiment, because that's really one of the only ways you're going to find out. What does it sound like, and do I like that? And that's how you start to develop your signature sound. Along with you trying to learn a guitar solo and you can't learn it right away, but you start fiddling around in the same area that the guitar solo is, and then you start coming up with something that kind of fits. Because the reality is, any note could fit that chord progression that's within that scale range and within the chord pattern. It's just laid out different. That's really all it is. So I hope this really does help, guys. Now, I want to talk real briefly because I got a few more minutes here because I'm not going to be on for a long time here. I'll grab my decaf coffee. Now, I also put up in the post. I got to heat this up. I'll do that later. About what's known as residency gigs. If you're not familiar with that term, residency gigs merely it means that you're playing at a certain place for a long duration of time, or any duration of time. Meaning, for example, every Monday from January, the first Monday in January to the very last Monday in March, I'm going to be at the exact same place, Jungle Bird, weather permitting, because if it gets cold and raining, it's outside, then they cancel, and I understand, no problem. I've done 2-year residency gigs, almost 2.5-year residency gigs, where I was at the same place, the same duration of time, plus all the other places I was playing at. The difference with residency gigs, yeah, you're going to be there. The wait staff might start to get a little bit tired because you're doing the same things, but the people are going to be different coming in. Okay, putting that aside, the best way to secure any type of a gig, especially your residency gigs, is always work with your restaurant owner / booking agent, or if it's the manager booking, it's always to come down to the owner, because the owner is the one that signs the paycheck. If they're going to give you X amount of days in a row to play, that leads into months and perhaps years. If you work with their budget, you're going to come out ahead, okay? So in the very beginning stages, you do the gig there and you get paid a certain amount, and you find out someone that played there last week got more than you, and it's like, well, wait a minute, how come they get more? And if it's the same amount of draw, the same amount of customers come out, whatever, what you're going to start to notice, you're going to be there next week and the week after that and so forth for as long as they want you there, as if they have you within season or whatever the case might be. That last person that just paid X amount of dollars might be their one and only time there, and then due to various reasons. One of them is if they don't know how to negotiate with the restaurant owner. Because again, it really comes down to the owner. He or she is the one that's paying you. Or if it's a group of people, they're paying you. And then they live up to the manager. And if you're on time, you're very cordial with their guests. You're not belligerent. You're not rude to anybody. You're easy to work with. You sound good. Maybe you're not doing every song that's on the jukebox, but you sound good. You have something uniquely different. That really does help. But the biggest one, even if you're doing the same covers that the other people are playing, one of the biggest things, are you easy to work with, and you're not difficult. If there's a day that gets canceled, let's say, you're playing on a Sunday, and guess what? Super Bowl Sunday. we got to cancel the gig because we got Super Bowl Sunday. Well, understand. That's all. If there's something on a Monday, special event comes on a Monday. I've had that happen a few times. And of course, I said absolutely not a problem, not a problem at all. And because of that, they think, oh yeah, Dave and Dob, they're easy to work with. That's why we like them. They don't give us problems. When you start giving people problems, no one wants to work with you. It's really that simple. Now, there are a lot, and I do mean a lot of really great restaurant owners and managers that I've worked with, for the most part. When the ones are a little bit okay, then we just don't go there. We're not going to trash their name. We're not going to bash their name. We just don't go there. And part of it is it's maybe not a fit for us as well. Because see, here's something you got to keep in mind. When you, especially when you talk with your managers at these places, they're not only there, if they're the ones booking, that's not their only job they have there. They have to make sure that the cooler is filled. If they're gonna have food, make sure the food's there. If they have drinks, make sure you get enough drinks. They got so much on their plate they got to worry about. Oh, did someone call in? And let's see, 2 weeks from today, they want to have a private event. And how many people they said they have? X amount of people. They got to write all this down. They got to be prepared for everything. Oh, an employee called in sick. Oh, I got to fill this position now. So you see, there's a lot that's going on. A lot. And I always try to take that in consideration. And I think that's one of the reasons why we'll get all the work. They figured out that we figured it out. We're not difficult. Like I said, no one wants to work with anyone that's difficult. No, of course not. Of course not. So it's just something to think about. And no matter what, don't worry about these changes. You're going to get them. So one place, they had to cut back on the music like entirely because they were starting to run out of money. Now I guess they're starting to pick up a little bit, and they're going to have new people coming. That's fine because I already played at that place for like 2.5 years, almost 3 years, and now they're going to do a change. That's fine. Not everyone is going to like what I do, and that's fine. I don't take that personal, And I think that's one reason what causes people to have problems. Oh, I'm trying to see the chat, guys, and it's so hard. Let's see. Murphy Radio Band. If that's what that says, I apologize, guys. I'm not trying to ignore anybody out there, but it is real tiny. I remember when YouTube had it on side, you could really see everything when you're able to take the phone and go horizontal and see. I don't know why they changed things, but just that's a different topic for a different time. So, getting back to what I was saying, the easier you either work with, they're gonna want you. Now, when they make their changes, they'll say, you know what? We're going to have more dedication to country music. I don't play country music. I respect it, but I don't play country music. I did when I was with RUI with Mike, because he was a big country fan, and he sang those songs great. I had no problem at all. But if me on my own, no, I don't, because it's just not my style. So let's say a certain place, now we want more country, we want you to sing, and you don't really sing, it's not a good fit. Okay, that's not a problem. Because you see, when you leave it like that and you part, let's say you part as understanding and you do it professionally, you don't get on websites and bash and trash everybody, then they're going to see that. And let's say a few years down the road, they start seeing more of an interest in more jazz-oriented music. They say, oh, man, that guy Dave, yeah, let's give him a call. He does that real good, and he seemed like he was easy to work with. I guess really the only time if you have to speak up about something, maybe to warn other people, is if you're getting ripped off, and man, it's just a bad situation. You just gotta let people know, but you still don't have to use vulgar language and all this other stuff. You really don't. See, when people get hot-headed, and I've been down that road too, you got to put a lid on it. You really do. and try to see things from their point of view. But if that person's been rude to you, then just just cut yourself away from that, because you don't need that. Chances are that person will not be in that position for very long, because if they're doing it to you, they're doing it to everyone else. They'll pick and choose their battles and who they like and who they don't like. But you won't be the only one. You'll see. You won't be the only one that they're doing that to, and you're like, hey, there's a pattern here. Maybe it's not me. Maybe it is that person. Well, if it's that person, I'm just gonna stay away, because that's not the only game in town. When they're real bad to you, you don't even have to go there to eat. And I'm gonna tell you something. You get people that say, oh yeah, but yeah, they're making money. They're not gonna care. Well, on the surface, yeah, they're not gonna care until when they start to see sales going down, and every single cent counts, including yours. Boy, they'd love to have you back in buying. Yeah, but I don't need your money. I do need their money, because you know what? Next month it might be. I'm going to hit the slow season, and I need every single cent. The only time they really don't need a person's money, if that person is going in there and destroying things, they're getting, because a lot of these places serve alcohol. They'll get drunk. They go into the bathrooms. They got mad at somebody. They smack open the door. The door hangs off a hinge. A restaurant club owner they don't need people like that, because that's going to cause a problem, a very serious problem. And when I go out and I check places out that may be interested in playing, I'll go to use the men's room even if I don't have to use the restroom. I'll go and I'll wash my hands. The reason for that is I could kind of tell if I go into an establishment. What's this down here? I'm sorry, guys. Oh, I appreciate that. Like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. You are totally awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I could kind of tell what kind of establishments, because usually be in the afternoon, or late morning, early afternoon, because that's the best time to get in touch with your restaurant owners or the booking agent or the club owner, because that's a lot of times usually even before they open up, because they got that time to talk. But that time of frame right there, when they open up, and let's say you get on their website and you still cannot tell what it's like, okay, well, the place is only about a mile away from my house, so why don't I hop in the car, drive down, and check it out. So when when I go in, you can usually tell when you go into these restrooms, if you go to wash your hands and there's a towel rack there, the paper towel rack, and you go to get the thing down, and if it pulls down and it's hanging off a hinge, well, why is it hanging off a hinge? If you go to use one of the stalls, you go to open the door and it's hanging off a hinge. Why is that? The mirror is cracked. One part of the sink is not working. Something happened, because it doesn't break like that on its own. And I learned this a long time ago. I actually started learning about this when I was in this top 40 band way back in 1987. How you could see if the restrooms are looking like that, what are the clientele? If it's during the day and you see people are sitting there and they're just real peaceful, having their drink, having the meal, talking, real casual and cordial to each other, it's not going to be that crowd. Chances are it's going to be the crowd in the evening when the music's playing. And sometimes there's a certain amount of people out there that cannot handle their liquor. And they give you a dirty look, or they think you gave them a dirty look, then they get mad, or they're trying to talk with somebody, they get mad, or they're trying to pick up someone's girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, they get mad. And next thing you know, they storm off, and they'll storm off into the bathroom, and things start to get a little bit downhill. And if you have been patronizing these places, let's say over a course of time, and you're seeing that the towel rack never got fixed, the stall bathroom door is still hanging off a hinge, now there's a new crack in the mirror, now the loose knob on the sink is completely off, it's never got fixed, they either don't care or they just have a rowdy crowd. Or if you want to really check it out when there's a band playing, or band or music, whatever, DJ, whatever. Watch everything. Don't get drunk. I don't drink any alcohol at all. Never did, never will. Just get yourself a soda. If they got some coffee, you can get a little sandwich or something, and just watch everything, because this will give you a good idea of what goes on, and maybe you don't want to put yourself in that position. And you get some people that just don't know how to handle themselves, and they come up to the stage, they step on the pedal board, or they got the drink, and they're going like this, and it's spilling all over the place, and it's shorting everything out. Now, you know what your response is? Oh, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry. But that's not going to pay for the repair or to replace. That's not going to pay for it. And it's not like that everywhere all the time. And even if there's a place that does have that occasionally, you might have a night where that those people have been barred out maybe for a month, trying to time out. They got barred out for about a month, and then let's see how they change their ways. When it gets too bad, a smart restaurant, club, bar owner will just completely eliminate that person, because that person can get that restaurant slow down or shut down eventually by their actions. And you don't want to have any part of that. Or if it's got a reputation of getting raided because there's drug sales dealing going on there, if you can, stay away from those places. Stay away from them, because you see, there's an old saying: even though you're not involved, you're guilty by association. You're there, the police come out, everyone's not leaving until we figure what's going on. And now there's issues and things of that nature. I've heard one of the guys that had his sound system in one of the places. He played there occasionally, but he had his own PA sound system for the house sound. The place got shut down. He had a hard time to get his PA system out, and he told me, with everything, with his lights and all the speakers and everything, he was up to about $15,000 worth of gear he couldn't get out of that restaurant. So, that kind of lets you know, just be careful. You don't have to play at every single place. Now, when I play at these places, like let's say for Monday night, if you notice, it's more of a dinner crowd. So I'm not going to rock out too much unless I know there's an interest. So here's another tip. When you do the residence, or really any gig, if you're doing like a rock show, it's very specific. Yeah, go ahead, because that's what it is. But if you're going to come to a place where you might get what they call the residency gig, and you notice that it's more of a laid back crowd, more they don't want anything too loud, well, learn how to read that crowd. When you see that, pick and choose songs, whether it's your originals or covers, that will be conducive to that atmosphere. And that's another thing that'll help you get the gigs and continue to get the gigs, because they'll see that you're not obnoxious, you're not, chasing people out because you're too loud or anything like that. And keep in mind, not everybody in there is going to like what you do. And again, that's okay. Don't take it personal. But you're going to have, even those people will say, that's not my kind of music, but he's not loud. I could talk to my friend. I don't, he's not singing, so that's another plus. And here's the controversy, I guess, behind this. When people say to me, why don't you sing? Number one is because I don't have an interest in it. Number two, I don't have a voice for it. If I'm not interested in it, what makes you think I'm going to try to develop something? I don't have an interest. So I play the songs that are popular. I take the vocal melodies. I play them on a guitar. Here's the advantage of that. If I'm too loud, I could turn everything down. But some people, if they have a loud voice, even if they turn the mic down a little bit, it still has to be over the instrumentation. And then if it gets to the point where even if it's acoustically, they have to sing over the instruments. And some people by nature, if they sing at a certain volume, they could maybe hit certain notes. But then when they drop down the volume, they can't really hit those notes. Or vice versa. But I've seen this happen. And it's like, oh, it doesn't sound too good. there's that part, and there's the other part where to that person's ears, meaning the singer's ears. I can't sing soft. I have to sing loud because that's the only way I can hit the notes. Yeah, but you don't understand. The restaurant owner says you don't understand. The couple sitting right there, they're complaining, and they're spending about $75 tonight for dinner and some drinks, and they don't want to be. So they were already here at this table before you showed up tonight. So is there some way that we could work with this? Because it's kind of hard for the restaurant owner to say I gotta listen to the musician. So do you mind moving to another table? It's different when the people say, hey, Mr. Restaurant Owner, or waiter, or manager, do you mind if we move to another table? This guy is just too loud, and we want to be in a different section. Okay, that's different. But you see, these things happen, and it's a matter of learning how to control your volume. Now, I'm very fortunate because I play instrumental music, and the way I got my pedal boards laid out, I will try to back down on my volume pedals. On the Boss RC300, one of the things I like about that pedal, it already has a built-in volume pedal. And what I do is I have to program it per patch. But if I want to bring back my tracks, all I gotta do while I'm playing, I could just do that with my foot and then come over to where I've got my effect unit. In this case, now I'm back to using the Boss GT1. I bring the pedal back up, it turns the volume down a little bit. And I've been trying to do that mostly Monday night. It was a little bit toward the end of the evening, and a couple came out, and then the manager, she came out talking, and as they were placing an order, I noticed it was a couple and one of their friends. The lady, as I'm playing, because I'm back over here, so let's say I'm back in this area, and they're over here, she kind of went and leaned in to the manager, and the manager kind of went like that. So right there tells me I was too loud. So I tried to lower the volume so they could hear each other. And I've had this happen at the same time me doing that. Way on the back side, they had the outdoor bar, and way on the other side of the bar, I can't hear you, dude. Could you turn up? Well, I'm trying to be respectful to the couple that's right here and the manager. So, if a person really wants to hear it, they need to understand that. They really need to understand. Maybe they could come up or just understand there's a reason why I turned the volume down a little bit. If I got asked to, number one, do that because it's not the guy sitting at the bar, although he does contribute to the money coming in. Yeah, 100%. But he's not the one that signs my paycheck. So who do I listen to? The one who signs my paycheck, or the one that's wait for one song? He wants to hear just the guitar solo, and he's way back there wants me to crank it up. And right here is like a group of people that can't hear while they're ordering their food. You know what I mean? So you have to understand how to play the game a little bit. And it goes a long way. It really goes a long way. At the same time, on Monday, and I've had this happen to me a lot of times, I happen to be playing a lot of the chillax groove music. There happened to have been a young couple. They're like in their early, maybe mid-20s. And I noticed right away she's moving back and forth to the music, and it happened to be one of my originals, which is great. I'm so honored when people, and I'm so happy and pleased. And the boyfriend, he's getting into it. And I did a couple of those songs, and then I went into No Quarter, my version of Led Zeppelin's No Quarter. And I did step out because I wanted to see what my sound was like on the stage. And then as I stepped out, we're talking with them a little bit. And they really liked it. And I get this a lot. They'll know that I'm older than them. They don't know how old I am, but they know I'm older. But I get this comment a lot. You don't sound old. And I've noticed this where I'm at this point where this kind of jazzy, chill fusion music that I play, it will appeal to the older crowd who likes jazz music, but it's also appealing to this young college age crowd because they associate it with whatever it's like hip hop, chill music, house music. They could hear that groove. They know. And the thing is, with these styles of music, they're very relatable because all this new, what they call EDM, electronic dance music, a lot of it is borrowed from jazz, and it's got a groove to it. And these young kids, they could associate. But I'll get this, like the girl said, and I've had this happen a lot of times. I didn't know you could do that with the guitar. You can make it sound like that with this kind of music. You know, if you're a creative person, you'll find ways. But one of the easiest way, if you find where this music, how it relates, where it's borrowed from. How did heavy metal get developed? Well, it came a lot from rock and roll, and also did come from a lot of classical music. So there's like, especially your symphonic metal, but some of the metal, for instance, Iron Maiden's The Trooper has chord progressions very similar to like flamenco guitar. See, people don't, they think right away it's just always blues. No, it isn't always blues. Part of it does, yeah, but a lot of it will come from the classical world. Likewise with your hip hop and some of this called EDM house music and that, there's elements of jazz, bebop, and that they're all relatable. Bluegrass, country's got a little bit of flair from bluegrass. They all kind of they're a little bit relatable. They're different worlds, but you could see the correlation, how they connect, where they're from, and I think that is why these kids are getting into this. They don't care if I'm not singing, which is really great, because I've noticed there's this newer generation that I could please them more than some of the people that are within my generation, because the people of my generation, if all they did was listen to the radio, well, of course they're hearing people sing, and then they don't understand that I don't sing. They don't understand I play a song as an instrumental. They don't. It's like they don't get it. It's like they'd rather hear me try to sing way off key than for me to play the melody and make it sound as musical as possible. But this newer generation, I don't care. It sounds good. Wow, what a concept. It sounds good. So that's my point. It all plays in a bit part of the role. And that's how I was able to secure a lot of these residency gigs. Now, of course, if I played nothing but popular songs or country music, there's certain places I get a residency gig at that place. But you see, if that's not my style that I really like, then I'll find a style that I do like, and I find the places that accept that. You don't have to misconception. I'm a guitar player, or I play in a band. I have to get all the gigs. I got to play at all these places. That's what you think in the beginning stages. When you start to go out there and you start saying, oh, maybe that's not a good place to play at for me, then don't. Find a replacement for that, or enjoy a day off. Because there's a lot of times that we've done a lot of shows back to 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 back, and you start to get worn out and tired. And boy, when you get that day off, wow, man, you don't even want to touch the guitar, man. You just want to relax a little bit. And of course, within that day, I always pick the guitar up. But there are times when it's a nice break. You do need that, mentally and physically. You'll need that. So just keep those things in mind, my friends. And I think you guys will be all right. And now, for people who don't want to go out and play, I'm going to tell you the advantage you got right there. You don't have to feel like you're always on. And you have a luxury. If there's a certain song you're really trying to work out, or you're writing, you will be able to nail it really good, because you can put your all into just that one song. Or if it's 2 or 3 songs, you don't have to feel like, man, I got to do a whole 3-hour set list or whatever. So you have that luxury, and you could pick and choose when you want to play it. When you start booking, you're on the schedule. You have to go. You might have that day you're not feeling too well. Oh, I'm not gonna play it today. I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna go lay down. Not if you've got a show schedule, you're not laying down, or if you cancel it. But keep that in mind. You cancel it, no play, no pay. You don't get any money. So there's all these variables you got to think about. Is the gig outside or inside? If it's outside, you're at the mercy of the outdoor elements. If there's high humidity, you might have forgot, oh, I should have put some fingerings or wiped my string up. And within the course of time as you're playing, man, it feels like my strings are getting rusted because they're not. I can't move from here to here. I know how to play. What's going on? Well, you're in the outdoor elements. And as you're playing, if you make a mistake and it happens, don't announce the mistake. Know that you made it, so you correct it later. But as you're right there in that moment playing, don't stop and make this big announcement. Oh, I messed up, man. I messed up, guy. I'm sorry. Or if you're going to do something like that, make it like it's part of the show. Because one thing you got to remember, when those people get there, they don't know anything about any of this. For the most part, not all of them, but for the most part, they just want to be entertained. They don't care what the issue is. If you turn a bad situation into a joke, guess what? They laugh, and now you just entertain them. You did your job. And then as you go home, if you recorded, then you could listen to the recording or watch the playback, and just zoom in on that section where all these mistakes happen and analyze it, and just say, oh gee, maybe I remember. Yeah, I had like something bad happen. I wasn't really feeling it. And find a way to just build up to that. Or if it's a certain song it's not for you, pull out of a playlist. I've done that a few times. I'll do some of these like for hire gigs. When we did like I think it was not Veterans Day. Yeah, it was Veterans Day, and I did some of the patriot songs and some of the country songs. That was a one-time thing with a lot of those country songs. They're great songs, but by great artists. But I'll put them back in my playlist if I get requested to play that, where I know I'm getting hired for that, very specific. Then I'll work on it and I'll do that. I had a guy ask me one time, gee, while I was playing, and I was right in between songs, says, hey man, do you play all the covers exact? And I said no. I said the only time I do that is if I really have to. Then I'll work on that. But if it's a set like these gigs that, I'll improvise around it and I'll put my own spin to it, because I do a lot of my own music. And there's some people like that. I'm like that. I lean more toward the writing and performing, doing my own thing, than to be an exact duplicate of somebody else. But if I'm getting hired to do an exact duplicate, then it's game on, and I'll do it. I'll nail it. But I don't seek that out. But some people do, and if that's what your thing is, you're gonna go out and seek out to be, let's say, a tribute band, or let's say a band that does all these covers. You want to nail it, note for note. Absolutely, 100% go for it. If that's your thing. If it's not your thing, then understand you're not gonna. Even if you nail it, you're gonna find part of it being frustrating because you spent so much time nailing it, and when really you wanted to do something else. So keep that all in mind. This will fall into the category of I don't have to take on every gig, because it's simply just not for me. And just remember, there's only 24 hours in a day. When I was at the Bristol Renaissance Fair, the musical director, when he made that comment, I'm like, geez, finally someone that understands. There's only 24 hours in a day. Pick and choose wisely. If your job is to do the covers exactly before you join that band, if that's what's required, think real hard. Don't just jump on it because, I just want to play in a band. You could do that at first when you're starting out, and then you're going to find out, by doing it, by the experience of doing it. That's when you find out, geez, you know what? I thought I would enjoy it. I really don't. I also like doing my own thing. I'm going to go back to doing my own thing. I probably won't be playing out every Friday night, but that's okay, because I'm getting burnt out. I don't even want to hear these songs, and now I got to learn them and play them over and over again. No matter what it is you're going to do, my friends, it's going to be over and over again. Meaning, even if it's your own originals, you're going to be playing them over and over again. The advantage of your originals is that you're the only one that's playing them, not 15, 20, 50, whatever, how many bands out there doing the same set list. That's another thing to keep in mind. If you join a cover band, you might be predicting you're going to get all the work, but you might find out that, wow, I thought I was going to get all the work. I'm not really getting all the work. The band's not getting all the work. Why is it? Well, you're playing the exact same songs, maybe in a different order, as the last 25 bands that play here. So where's the uniqueness? It's burnout, 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 burnout. I looked at this one ad on Craigslist. I guess there's a band that I think this is cool. They want to do mostly originals with a few groove-oriented covers, and the only rehearsals they want are dress rehearsals, meaning they want you to learn the material at home and practice. So you got to be good on your instrument right off the bat. Just be good on your instrument. So when you get to do what's called the dress rehearsal, you can run through the songs and make any corrections there, because now they're getting ready to book. When I was in that top 40 band, that's how we did it. I was suggested, take your cassette tape, listen to Casey Kasem on a Sunday, record all those songs, learn those songs, because in 2 weeks we're going to be playing those songs. So sometimes it's only that week. You got a week. Learn all these songs, go out and do it. And we'll get together at the dress rehearsal, and those rehearsals were mostly and I didn't sing, but they're mostly to get to all the vocals. So we would play parts of songs that had the harmonies, and the keyboard player and the drummer would go back and forth with the song, with the singing. Once, I don't even think the bass player sang, but the keyboardist and drummer definitely, they sang. And we would go over those parts that were the trouble spots of those songs. So sometimes we didn't even play a whole song. But what that taught me is you got to be that good. We could just jump in on a section right there, you know. And we did not have a set list, so we never knew what we were going to play until we got on stage and started playing. And when we go from one song and go to the next song, the drummer would lean over and tell me, we're going to play this song. He'd lean on the bass, we're going to play that. And me and the keyboard player were on the same side. Facing the audience, we were on the drummer's left side. The bass player was on the drummer's right side. So when he leaned over, he was able to communicate with me and the keyboard player. And then he would tell the bass player. And we'd be finishing one song and going to the next one, and he hit the cue and start off, and boom. Ready. And I did not have effect processors. I had the separate pedals and my PV amp. And I had my settings as close to that style of music that we were playing as possible. But it was literally, because you had no time to start adjusting things. It was literally sometimes back to back to back to back to back. And it taught me a lot, man. It taught me a lot. And we were doing one place in particular. We were doing 6 nights a week, 5 sets, Monday, or maybe it was Monday through Thursday. We did 5 sets. Saturday and Sunday we did 6 sets. And we were there quite often. I mean, quite often. I remember a time we were there like 2 or 3 weeks straight. And then we'd go to another place, and then another place. And sometimes those would be 4 nights a week, sometimes 2 nights, 3 nights over here. So, and then variations. And then one-nighters we did. I know the 2-nighters we did was at the Holiday Star Plaza, at the Holodome. And we'd leave our gear there, bring the guitar home, of course. And because it was, high-end place, the management, security, they always made sure no one messed with anything. That room was blocked off. When there was no action, everything's blocked off. When employees get in there, well, they were too busy to fiddle with anything on the stage, but they were told never to mess with anything on the stage. So that was cool. That was really cool. But I did learn a lot. And I was, of course, much younger. It was 1987. But boy, did I learn a lot on that one. And I learned about booking. And he would talk about it, drummer would talk about it, but mostly by listening to him speak, talking about it, and then watching everything. And man, I really did pick up on that. And I'll never forget, he made the comment, I make the phone calls. Sometimes they say no, we're not interested. So I gathered all that up and says, well, you know what? what is the worst thing to happen when I call a place to book myself? They say no and hang up. Sorry, not interested. Sorry, not interested. You get a lot of that. You get a lot of rejection. When you start getting the exception, then it's like, ooh, game on. So then you start to build an immune system against anything that's deemed negative. The rejection. You start really building an immune system up against that. You're doesn't even phase you. Okay, no problem. Bye. Call the other person. You know. And then when you get tired of phone calls, go back to practicing. You know. Now, when I would do that, you'd probably think, "Wow, don't you have in your mind the rejected phone call you just made, and how you gonna think positive now to learn to play the song to play out when they're not gonna let you play out?" What happens is I get so involved in going over the music that I started to forget about that conversation. Not entirely, but it got put on the back burner. And now it's game on with this. So I started to develop this way of thinking that I was able to shift my mind, shift my focus. My focus now became on the playing. Yeah, this guy, was rude to me on the phone and that, or she was rude to me on the phone. Forget about that. Let's get on to this, because I know if I get this going strong, that 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 person maybe won't be even working there next week, but I'll still get this done. So you see, you start to develop a method that's a method of thinking positive. That's that's so key in everything, in anything you do in life, because you're gonna get rejection no matter what it is you're gonna do. So that's part of life, and learn how to handle it, learn how to work with it, so it doesn't take you down and you get depressed and oh man, it's a big drama thing. We don't want to go down that road. All right, my friends. So I hope this has helped out. I hope I might have my student Rory, go to sleep. I gotta get ready to go to sleep. I gotta get up early tomorrow. So I hope this helps and to help inspire people to understand whatever rejection you go through. I go through the same thing. We all go through it. It's how you handle things. That's key right there. Okay, my friends. I hope you have a great evening. I thank you all for tuning in. You guys are the best. And thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And again, I apologize. I can't see the chats, but I just want to thank everybody for all your support. It really means a lot. And we are going to be at Cafe Blue on Friday, so we'll probably record some of our friends playing there as well. And then Monday, I think it's will be like 6 to 8 or something. We'll be there on Friday, and Monday we'll be back to 6 to 9 at Jungle Bird and that. So if you guys get tuned in, we appreciate it. If we're not there, it's because it got canceled as far as Monday's gig, because we'll be outside. So, anyways, guys, have a great evening, and we'll talk to you later. Till then, rock on and God bless. Thank you so kindly.